I want you to take a second and just think about the sheer amount of friction in your life right
Oh,
now.
yeah. So much friction.
Right. And I mean, you, the person listening to this, you're probably navigating a pretty noisy world today. We're talking about, the unread emails piling up in your inbox.
And those endless notifications buzzing in your pocket.
Exactly. The heavy looming to-do list that somehow never actually gets finished.
Mm.
Our earthly lives are defined by this constant grinding friction, things bumping into other things, schedules colliding.
It's chaotic, and frankly, it's heavy.
It is so heavy.
It's basically the definition of a high-gravity environment, mentally speaking. We're just constantly being pulled down by the weight of our own responsibilities. Every single input demands a reaction. Everything feels solid, immovable, and completely urgent.
Which is exactly why today's deep dive is going to serve as a bit of a mental escape hatch.
I think we all need one of those.
Oh, definitely. We are pulling from some really fascinating excerpts out of a text called Resonance in the Rings of Saturn. Now, on its surface, the material reads almost like a cosmic relaxation script.
Right, like a guided meditation.
Exactly. It asks you to step away from the friction of Earth and enter a vacuum of total peace, just drifting upward into the deep cosmos. But here is the trick.
Mm-hmm.
While the framing feels really meditative, it is actually packed with incredibly vivid, completely factual astrophysics about our solar system's most famous gas giant.
Yeah, the author isn't just making up some fantasy world to help you detach. They're using the literal, harsh, massive reality of Saturn's astronomical environment.
Right.
And they're framing it in a way that highlights its profound serenity. It's a brilliant juxtaposition, honestly. You have these incomprehensibly large, violent forces creating a system of absolute clockwork tranquility.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the mission today is to essentially transition from that heavy gravity of earthly stress into the silent, velvety embrace of the deep cosmos.
I love that phrasing.
Thanks. We're going to pull apart the literal science behind this beautifully peaceful description. So imagine we've left all that earthly friction behind. We are making our visual approach to Saturn.
Visually, it is a staggering transition. You're approaching this magnificent amber glow that just appears on the horizon, the jewel of our solar system.
Wow.
But we have to fundamentally shift our understanding of what a planet even is in this context, because the composition we're looking at is entirely alien to our rocky home planet.
Yeah, the text calls Saturn a massive, beautiful gas giant hanging perfectly still in the dark void. And the detail that really sticks out is the description of the atmosphere.
Oh, it's incredible.
It's not just a yellow ball. We're looking at a soft, pastel atmosphere that glows with faint golden bands of ammonia ice crystals.
What's fascinating here is the complete lack of solid surfaces.
Right.
When we think of a planet, we think of terra firma, dirt, mountains, oceans. But here, there are no rocky edges, and there's no chaotic landscape. You are looking at a world without a ground.
That is such a hard concept to wrap your head around. I was trying to visualize this. If I were in a spaceship, I couldn't just, deploy the landing gear and touchdown.
Not at all.
And the old analogy of landing on a cloud doesn't quite do it justice, right? Because trying to land on Saturn would be more like flying an airplane into a thick, swirling fog bank that just gets heavier and heavier and denser until it literally crushes you.
Yeah, the descent physics are terrifying if you're a physical ship, but conceptually, it's beautiful. It's a highly dynamic, fluid environment. Saturn is a massive sphere of gas, mostly hydrogen and helium.
Okay.
And as you descend through those golden bands of ammonia ice crystals, the pressure builds exponentially. The gas gets denser and denser the deeper you go, until the atmospheric pressure is so immense that the hydrogen gas actually behaves like a liquid.
Wait, liquid gas?
Yes, supercritical fluid.
Wow.
The pressure forces the molecules so close together that the boundary between gas and liquid essentially ceases to exist. And if you go even deeper, the pressure becomes so extreme that the hydrogen becomes a liquid metal.
A liquid metal? That sounds like sci-fi.
It really does. The electrons are literally squeezed off the atoms, allowing them to flow freely like electricity through a copper wire. That churning ocean of liquid metallic hydrogen is actually what generates Saturn's massive magnetic field.
But from the outside, looking at those ammonia bands, it appears perfectly smooth. And the scale is just massive. You could fit over 700 Earths inside of Saturn.
Easily.
I know the atmospheric winds are howling at hundreds of miles per hour, but from a distance, because it lacks those jagged rocky edges and the chaotic surface collisions we have on Earth, it looks like a single, unbroken, peaceful entity.
And it's wrapped in this cosmic calm specifically because the scale is so large. The local chaos sort of averages out into a smooth, silent spin.
Okay.
The fluid dynamics at play mean that while there are massive storms, like the famous hexagonal storm at its North Pole,
Oh, right, the hexagon.
yeah, the overall global structure maintains these beautifully structured latitudinal bands.
It's like looking at a Category 5 hurricane from the International Space Station. Down on the ground, it's a disaster, roofs are flying off, but from orbit, it's just this beautiful, slow-moving white spiral.
Exactly. Only with Saturn, that spiral is the entire planet, and it's glowing amber.
That planetary scale naturally draws our focus outward to the structures that surround it. Because the defining feature of this system, the thing that captures human imagination more than anything else, is the ring system.
Oh, absolutely. The rings.
The ice archipelago.
Yeah.
This is where we need to completely shatter a myth that I think most of us still hold on to from childhood.
The solid hula hoop myth.
Yes. From Earth, if you look through a basic telescope, Saturn's rings look like perfect, solid hula hoops. Like you could just walk out onto them like a cosmic racetrack.
Yeah, it's a really powerful optical illusion, totally born of sheer distance. The rings span hundreds of thousands of miles across, but the vertical scale is entirely different.
Right.
They are incredibly thin. In some places, these massive rings are only a few dozen feet thick.
Wow, a few dozen feet.
Yeah. The local architecture of the rings is nothing like a solid disk.
The text describes them as a vast, cosmic ocean of billions of glittering ice particles. And the scale of these individual particles is wild. We are talking about everything from tiny dust motes to massive, towering mountains of pure water ice.
Just let that sink in for a moment. Mountains of pure water ice, completely untethered, floating in a vacuum.
Yes, beautiful.
Most astrophysicists believe this is the debris of a shattered moon or an ancient comet. It wandered too close to Saturn, crossed what is known as the Roche limit.
What's the Roche limit?
It's the point where the planet's gravitational tidal forces become stronger than the gravitational forces holding the moon together. So it was simply torn to pieces.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting and where I have to push back a bit on the physics of this peaceful imagery.
All right, lay it on me.
If we are floating among literal mountains of pure water ice and tiny dust motes, billions of them, generated from a violently shattered moon, wouldn't they be constantly smashing into each other?
That's a logical assumption.
I mean, think about asteroid belts in sci-fi movies. It's always chaotic, ship-dodging chaos, explosions everywhere. How does something made of billions of floating boulders achieve a perfectly peaceful state instead of just looking like a cosmic demolition derby?
Well, the sci-fi movie depiction of asteroid fields has done us a great disservice there. The reality comes down to Keplerian orbital mechanics.
Okay.
When you picture a demolition derby, you're picturing objects moving in different directions, intersecting, accelerating, and braking. But in Saturn's rings, all of these ice mountains and dust motes are orbiting the planet in the exact same direction, governed by the same central mass.
Oh, like cars on a massive circular highway.
Exactly. A perfectly regulated highway with billions of lanes. Because these particles are at specific distances from the planet's center of gravity in their respective ring lanes, they are moving at almost the exact same speed as the particles right next to them.
Right.
This is Kepler's third law in action. Objects closer to the planet orbit faster, and objects further out orbit slower, but right next to each other. The speed difference is microscopic.
So if I am floating next to an ice mountain that is traveling at 40,000 miles per hour around Saturn, I am also traveling at 40,000 miles per hour.
Right. Relative to each other, you are nearly perfectly still. The relative velocity between the particles in any given lane is incredibly low, often just a few millimeters per second.
Wow.
There are collisions, yes, but they are gentle nudges. It's not a violent shattering, it's a soft, continuous reshuffling of the deck. This is how the system maintains that profound, unbroken peace. The massive orbital velocity is completely masked by the synchronization of the movement.
That really emphasizes that idea of unclamping your jaw, dropping your shoulders, and matching your breathing to a slow, synchronized rhythm. You're moving incredibly fast, but perfectly in tune with everything around you.
Yeah, that synchronization is what creates the overall structure. But the structure isn't just one solid sheet of ice particles. Once you realize how organized these billions of ice mountains are, it begs the question.
What happens when there's a break in the traffic?
Exactly.
The gaps The visual shift here is incredible. The most famous one is the Cassini division, a wide, peaceful gap between the main A and B rings.
It's massive.
I visualized it like a cosmic clearing in the middle of an icy forest. As you float through this division, the shadow of the planet gently falls over you. The bright sunlight fades into a cool, comforting cosmic twilight.
The visual contrast is stunning. The rings are highly reflective, so they catch the sunlight beautifully. But when you drift into the planet's shadow, that light is suddenly eclipsed. The ice particles slowly glow and fade as they enter that shadow. But the Cassini division isn't just an empty clearing.
Right.
It's a testament to the invisible gravitational mechanics organizing this entire system.
Why is there a gap at all, though? If the rings are just billions of ice mountains, why wouldn't they just spread out evenly? What is plowing the road?
To understand that, we have to introduce the concept of orbital resonance and shepherd moons. Saturn has over 100 moons.
Over 100.
Yeah. Some of them are massive, but some are tiny, just a few miles across, embedded right within or just outside the rings. Take the moon Mimas, for example. The Cassini division exists largely because of a gravitational resonance with Mimas.
Gravitational resonance, meaning their orbits sync up.
Essentially, yes. Any ice particle orbiting in the middle of the Cassini division completes exactly 2 orbits for every single orbit of the moon Mimas. This is a 2-to-1 resonance.
Okay.
Because they sync up perfectly, the ice particle gets a tiny gravitational tug from Mimas at the exact same location in its orbit every single time. Over millions of years, these repeated, perfectly timed tugs act like pushing a child on a swing at the exact right moment.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, the particle's orbit becomes elongated until it is eventually kicked out of that lane entirely. Mimas sweeps the Cassini division clean from thousands of miles away.
That is wild. The moon doesn't even have to touch the ice. It just uses math and gravity to politely ask the ice to leave the area. And what about the smaller gaps? Because I've seen photos where there are tiny little moons right inside the rings.
Yeah, those are the literal shepherd moons, like Pan and Daphnis. They orbit inside the smaller gaps. As they move, their gravity steals orbital momentum from the inner ring particles and imparts momentum to the outer ring particles.
Wow.
This gravitational shepherding literally confines the ring particles, keeping the edges of the rings incredibly sharp. Without these shepherd moons, the rings would eventually spread out and dissipate entirely.
So you have these massive chaotic forces like gravity, velocity, orbital resonance, acting as the ultimate organizing principle. It creates perfect order out of a shattered moon.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the organization of this system extends beyond just the visual. The forces maintaining these rings also create immense physical and electromagnetic phenomena.
Right, and this is where we need to clear up a major misconception. Because when exploring the deep rings, people often talk about the sound of Saturn. We've all heard the phrase, the brown noise of space, or an acoustic hum. But wait, space is a vacuum. Traditional sound, acoustic pressure waves traveling through air molecules to vibrate our eardrums, cannot exist in a vacuum. So how are we talking about sound?
Right, so we aren't talking about acoustic waves in air. We are dealing with 2 separate, incredibly advanced phenomena: physical density waves and the sonification of electromagnetic plasma waves.
Okay, let's take the physical density waves first.
Think of a spiral galaxy with those sweeping arms of stars. Saturn's rings have something similar. Because of the gravitational tug-of-war between Saturn and its moons, spiral waves ripple through the ring system.
Like ripples in a pond.
Exactly. The ice particles actually bunch up and spread out in waves. It's a literal physical vibration rippling through the ice, almost like the grooves of a record. It is a slow, majestic, silent vibration of mass.
So the ice mountains themselves are physically compressing and expanding in waves.
Yeah.
But we can't hear that. We can only see it or measure the density. So what is the hum that NASA releases? The audio tracks that actually sound like deep, sweeping cosmic wind.
That is the sonification of electromagnetic fields. Saturn is a massive gravitational and magnetic engine. Its magnetosphere interacts with charged particles, plasma, streaming from the sun and from its own moons.
Okay.
These interactions generate intense radio waves and plasma waves. When space agencies send probes like the Cassini spacecraft through these regions, its antennas record these electromagnetic frequencies.
Which are light waves, essentially, not sound waves.
Correct. They are low-frequency radio waves. But scientists take that data and artificially shift the frequencies down into the human auditory range. They map the electromagnetic data into sound files, When you listen to it, it sounds exactly like a deep, sweeping, cosmic hum.
So the brown noise of space is a data sonification of the planet's magnetic field and plasma interactions. That is just incredible. The steady, deep frequency acts on the human nervous system exactly like brown noise does. It wraps around your mind like a warm blanket, wiping away anxiety.
It really does.
It's literally a white noise machine made of billions of frozen mountains and a massive magnetic field.
And it permeates the entire system. It's a sensory translation of the physics we've been discussing. You have the fluid dynamics of the gas giant, the Keplerian orbital mechanics of the rings, the gravitational resonance of the shepherd moons, and the electromagnetic hum of the magnetosphere. All of these complex, high-energy systems perfectly balanced.
Which brings us to the final perspective shift. We've explored the atmosphere, we've navigated the rings and the gaps, we've mapped the electromagnetic hum. Finally, we drift further out, past the edge of the system. We look back at the whole picture, drifting along the outer edge of the rings, past those frozen moons.
The sentinel moons.
I love that framing, sentinel moons. They aren't just orbiting rocks, they're sentinels maintaining the boundary between the absolute peace of the Saturnian system and the harshness of the rest of the universe.
Yeah.
They're physically shepherding the ice, keeping the empire silent and organized.
It creates a profound sense of isolation and protection. You are witnessing a system that operates entirely independent of human concern. The scale is so massive and the mechanics are so precise that it forces a cognitive reset.
So what does this all mean? When we zoom out and look at the takeaways, we have a planet with no solid ground, just glowing ammonia ice bands under unimaginable pressure. We have rings that aren't solid hula hoops, but an ocean of water ice mountains performing a mathematically perfect slow-motion dance.
Beautifully said.
Thank you. We have invisible shepherd moons plowing gaps through gravitational resonance, and we have plasma waves translating into the soothing brown noise of space. It's a masterclass in how understanding vast cosmic systems can fundamentally change our perspective.
And that change in perspective is the ultimate tool for detachment. When you align your mind with the sheer scale and mechanical perfection of something like Saturn, the daily friction back on Earth, the unread emails, the traffic, the notifications, it suddenly loses its gravitational pull on your attention.
The friction of Earth is replaced by the frictionless vacuum of space. You are floating, surrounded by cold ice and warm cosmic vibrations. There is nothing to fix, nothing to plan, and nowhere else you need to be, just pure discovery. It turns intense astrophysics into the ultimate permission to simply let go.
The irony is beautiful, really. We look to the stars for peace, but the stars are engines of unimaginable force. Which actually brings up an interesting philosophical undertone to leave you with.
Oh, I'd love to hear it.
This entire meditative journey relies on the intense, massive gravitational mechanics of a gas giant and billions of shattered frozen mountains. It's a system governed by incredibly powerful, fundamentally chaotic forces.
Yeah, if one mathematical variable is off, those ice mountains lose their resonance and smash each other into vapor.
Exactly. It makes you wonder. Is it possible that the most profound serenity we can imagine isn't found in a complete void or an absence of force, but rather is true peace found in the perfect, balanced orbit of massive chaotic forces?